So we actually have some new developments when it comes to the Jaire Alexander situation. This has been something that's gone on for a long time all offseason, and we've been wondering which way this would go. But here's the information from Matt Schneidman of The Athletic. He said this earlier today. According to a source with knowledge of the situation, the Packers have proposed a restructured contract to Alexander, which tangibly demonstrates their interest in retaining the two-time All-Pro cornerback during an offseason in which they have been open to trading him. So there it is. The Packers are offering Jaire a restructured contract. And this we've come a long way from the initial reports earlier in the offseason that the Packers had no plan of bringing Jaire back. And it's hard to know exactly how all of this went down. It's very possible that initially the Packers thought that they were going to move on from Jaire, and maybe as they were making these trades, they recognized that there weren't going to be any teams out there that really wanted to trade for Jaire. And I know there had been discussion about one team who was open to it, but they wanted Jaire to take some kind of a restructured deal, and he didn't want to do that. And so that never took place. And I also think that because in the draft, the Packers did not draft a corner until round 7. If you're sitting there after the draft and you're the Packers and you brought in Nate Hobbs in the offseason, which I think was a solid addition, you have Keyshawn Nixon, you have Carrington Valentine, you're having to factor in when you're making the decision about Jaire, you're thinking, okay, what is it like if we keep him? What's it like if we let him go? Is it worth keeping him? Or is it better to let him go and save a little bit of money on cap space? And I think just because of where the Packers are as a team, as an organization, Brian Gutekunst has made it clear that he's ready for the Packers to be competing. And so I think to have Jaire on the team, you have a much better chance of making it far in the playoffs if he's healthy. Because so far when he's been healthy, he's played at a top-tier level when he hasn't been injured. And so that's why I feel like for the Packers, he will likely play at a top-tier level once again if he is healthy. That's the big if, and that's why I think other teams didn't want to trade for his contract. It's why the Packers were open to trading him. I think they really were. And so at the end of the day, it sounds like the Packers are now more willing to keep him than save the amount of cap space they would by releasing Jaire. But we still have to see Jaire accepting this contract, which I assume it's going to happen now at this point, and I honestly am very excited about this. I'm excited to see Jaire back, most likely, at this point. Just because I think at this point, if you drafted a corner in the first few rounds, I'm fine with moving on from Jaire, even though it would be sad. But without drafting a corner early, this team will be better with Jaire on the team. I think it's a better solution when it comes to the Packers finding success than saving a few $1 million on the salary cap, this year, next year. And then here's the other part. There's a whole article, but here's the second part. He says Alexander participated in the voluntary first week of the offseason program, but that was virtual because of the draft being held in Green Bay. He has not yet reported to Lambeau Field for in-person voluntary offseason work as his future with the team remains uncertain, but he plans to attend mandatory minicamp on June 10th, if not before, even if his contract situation isn't resolved, according to a source. The Packers could still release Alexander before he shows if negotiations for a restructuring reach a dead end. And so, I think that's pretty promising that Jaire plans to attend mandatory minicamp because it doesn't sound like he's frustrated in any way. The Packers were trying to trade him early in the season or early in the offseason. And I do think early in the offseason, he was, texting guys who were coming into Green Bay, the new players. He was working out with Xavier McKinney. And so it did look like maybe, at least with the player side, there weren't any problems there. I was potentially thinking that because the Packers wanted to trade him away, that maybe that could lead to him not wanting to stay in Green Bay. But at this point, it really feels like we're just getting super close to a new deal getting done. He will need to accept this, new restructure the Packers have proposed to him, and maybe they continue to negotiate and they come to some kind of agreement. I guess if Jaire doesn't like it at all and the Packers won't budge, then I guess he would be released. It just feels like we're at a point where this is actually going to get done. So that is the most recent update. If you want more Packers news, feel free to subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys next time.